PEACHcast. 미국인과 한국인이 생각하는 트럼프의 당선.
Hello, this is PEACHcast and I'm Michelle.
Yeah, and my name is Iain.
So we're going to talk about Trump today, which is very controversial, but he will be inaugurated tomorrow, so we decided to talk about him. So I'm Korean, so as a foreigner, like what I see Trump, and it could be a good time to compare what I think and what Iain thinks.
Yeah.
So, right.
For sure.
But first of all, like I want to know like how Americans think of Trump.
Trump, overall, I say it kind of depends where you're living. Some states, I think it's kind of maybe similar in Korea. Some states are one version of politics and some states are another version of politics.
You mean democratic and conservative?
Yeah, kind of democratic and conservative. So it kind of depends on the state and where you grew up. Usually people like born in the countryside are seen as a little bit more conservative, where in bigger cities they're a little bit more democratic.
Okay.
So that's kind of the feel there.
Oh,
Yeah.
so what about your state?
My state was, for a while, it was conservative, but in the big cities, it's kind of grown in population so much, it's becoming more of a swing. We call it a swing state.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So your state is one of those swing states?
Yeah, and the swing states kind of like determine if you win or lose
Right,
an
right,
election.
right.
So it's a kind of an important state when it comes to presidential elections.
Oh,
in the
okay,
US.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so your state probably vote for Trump this time?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I think I saw it on the news.
And last election, it was blue. So, yeah, it's like a swing state.
Wow,
Yeah,
okay.
that's what we call it. How does the election system work in Korea? Just curious.
So here, not like yours, we don't have states. So the more votes you get, then you will win.
So it's by a majority?
Yes.
Interesting.
So if you have just one more vote, then you will be the president.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because, well, actually, in the U.S. this year, sometimes how it works is you win by majority, but you lost electorally, which means each state has for example, Arizona has I forget the amount of points, maybe 15 or something like that.
Oh,
Where
okay.
California has 50 because it's so much more population.
Okay.
So even it goes by electoral votes. So the more electoral votes you get, then you win, not majority.
Yeah. That was very interesting system. That seemed like to us because we don't have state system like yours. So we have one unified country. So we don't have electoral system. So let's say if you got 20 million votes and the other part got 20 million plus one vote, then he will be the president.
Interesting.
Yes. So
Interesting.
that looked so interesting to us.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because this year was the first time since 2002. I wish I was more correct on that. But anyway, it was the first time, maybe 20 years or so, that the president won electoral vote and majority vote as well.
Okay.
So usually it's they win electoral, but they lose majority.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And this was the first time in a long time that actually happened.
Yes. So I know that you guys have electoral system though, but do people think it's kind of unfair because even though some candidate won this majority vote, but he couldn't or she couldn't win for electoral vote, so she or he cannot be the president. Do you think it's a fair system or?
I think because populations in states are always changing, it's kind of like a game within the game a little bit for the political campaigns. So it's definitely it's okay. It's not bad, but it's always changing. It feels like, and so
Right.
it ends up just being because instead of applying to the whole population, the politicians usually focus on the swing states, and they focus on them because that's what win or loses the election, not the majority of people in the country. So it's just kind of a different style. It's all right.
Yeah, I think so. Because we all have different political systems and stuff. So
Yeah.
okay.
So it is interesting. I think. What was your first thoughts on Trump when he won back? What was that? 2016. What did you think?
Well, to be honest, I thought he was a crazy guy at first. But more as time went by, I felt like he's kind of genius, in marketing and in winning the game wherever he is at. So at first I thought he was kind of very extreme and very aggressive. So I was worried about him. And back then, what I remembered was that there were these dictators around the world. So I was really worried about the world at the time. But not like my worries, like nothing serious happened during Trump regime. So probably he's like better at what he's doing than what I thought. And I don't know. So I thought he was crazy, and actually I thought I was right when Trump was doing on COVID thing, and when like people how do you say it? People like went to your Congress hall to
where they stormed the Capitol?
yes.
Yeah.
So I thought, that's kind of like crossing the line. Like
Right.
that's like too much.
Right.
Well, but over all those years, like he came back to the office and he won this election again. And with all those like obstacles, like he gained his presidency back. So I was like, well, probably there should be something that I can learn about him, Like
It's a very open mind to it, I feel like.
Yes. So my thought kind of has changed.
Yeah, interesting. Wow.
What about you? Like, what do you think
Yeah.
of him?
It's a very open mind from you, actually. It's quite impressive that you can able to like, because when it comes to politics, I feel like a lot of people kind of like, they completely like shut the other side off without any sort of like reflection. And that's an interesting point that you make. When I was kind of young when he was first elected, I was just in high school. I just started high school. So I didn't really know like, I was just kind of listening to what my parents were saying, right? I had no sort of like actual input.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, my parents were not a big fan. So at the time I was like, what? This is crazy, right? And I had no sort of anything to back that up besides what I was told because I was younger. But over time I kind of had the similar experience with you where I was like, clearly he's doing something right. And I think he's a good businessman overall. So clearly he's doing something right. And I think there's also something to be said about that. And I think one of his best skills is like gaining attention.
Right.
Like he's so good at like harnessing attention, whether it's good or bad. And that always can, change, because basically you're taking in energy from other people and you can always like convert that energy into something else. So I think there's something to be said for his marketing and kind of global awareness that he was able to create.
Right.
And that's very similar to your opinion, for sure.
Yeah, right.
So
when he was shot by a address, I guess like 4 or 5 months ago, when he talked to people there, like fight, I was like, how can a normal person do that in that situation? Like, wow, So I think he was born to be I don't know, star, I guess, or like, I don't know. He's very talented at getting people's attentions. So, and I think he's different from a normal person, and that's when I bought his books for the first time.
Wow.
Like, I just didn't even think of reading what he was writing, because I just didn't feel like it. But I felt like maybe I should buy his books and then read, Yeah. So,
it does take a very brave person after getting shot to stand there and still like preach to the public like that. So I think for a lot of Americans, when they saw that, they're like, it was such like an American feel to it. I think it really hooked a lot of people onto his campaign because in the last four or 5 years, America has been kind of on the decline a little bit in terms of like global presence. And I think when they saw that, it was like such like the rawness of like, and so that's kind of like the core culture of the America.
Right.
Like we're America, right? And I think when people saw that, it was like, this is the person that we want representing our country. And so I think that was a very influential moment in the election for sure.
I agree. Did it click to you as well, or?
When I saw there's this one picture of him where he's like going like this, and there's like a flag right above his head. It was like, it kind of gives you like goosebumps a little bit. It was like, wow, that's like the most American picture I've ever seen. And it made me kind of like, in some ways, like it made me more proud of my country. It was like, wow, we're actually kind of like, it had more like force to it, you know?
Right.
And in the past, there hasn't been that sort of feeling in a while.
Oh, okay.
And so it was definitely like, it was an inspiring moment for sure, I think, for me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I read this article that Elon Musk decided to support him after watching that picture or video of shooting. You know, so yeah.
Yeah. What did Koreans think when that happened?
I was in the shock, literally. Like, how can like. Well, if I were him, I could never do that.
Right. Yeah.
I'd be like really, really terrified.
Right.
And probably I would find somewhere to hide, you know. But wow, like that gut to do that, like I was inspired like by that spirit, and by that. How do you say it? Like it was so rare to see. So it was really shocking. But in a way, I thought, wow, he's very smart and strategic.
Yeah.
Like, how can people use his brain so fast like that and then like react immediately like that? Like, wow, like he is something, you know? So I didn't have any goosebumps and stuff because like I can relate, but not as much as you. So I didn't have any goosebumps, but I was in a shock to see all those situations.
Yeah. And it was crazy that, because these days with the social media and phones, people's attention changes so quick.
Right.
And it was like 2 weeks passed by and a lot of people were kind of like, it never even happened. And I was like, someone that was trying to run for president just almost got assassinated pretty much. And it felt like people weren't taking it as serious as they should. So it was definitely a pivotal moment for him for sure, I think,
right.
in the election. So, but that whole election was kind of crazy. So, but it was interesting for sure. So it'll be interesting to see how his inauguration goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to see your journey toward Trump as well, because it's kind of like similar to mine. But you told me that your parents were not that big fan of him. Like, did they change for this election, or are they at the same position?
I don't know if they're watching. They are still kind of anti-Trump. But it is what it is. So I kind of hit the point where like I actually have like cognizant thinking of my reasoning, where in 15 it's just like, oh, mom and dad don't like him, so I don't like him, right? That sort of thing. So they didn't change, no, to answer the question.
Okay. Yeah. My parents don't change their political views either.
Yeah.
You know, like it's very rooted, I guess.
It requires a kind of because these days everyone's like, they kind of like make you choose, I feel like, and it kind of separates people, which is actually, I believe, was the tactic used in India back in the day when England was in control of India.
No.
What they did was they had Indians, the people in India, kind of fighting against each other.
Oh.
And because of that, they were able to control it without that many people actually in control.
Okay.
So it's kind of a bummer that the way it is, they kind of make you choose, right? Which kind of divides people in some way. So it's an interesting, it's an interesting kind of way of doing it.
Yeah, I think you have the point that like nowadays because of social medias and stuff, like your algorithm shows the biased videos always, right? So if you are democratic, then you will see democratic videos always, and
Right.
if you're conservative, like you will see conservative videos always, right? So it will strengthen your bias like more and more. And so I think why Trump won this time, like one of the reasons why was that he decided to pick his side so clearly, and then that like message was consistent, so that appealed to those like conservative people, right? So like, but for in an ideal world, like politicians should be politicians for all people.
Yes,
Yeah,
in the
right?
ideal world.
Yeah.
The only problem with that in the U.S. though is like there's like the minority elections. So before the like they're called the primaries. So let's say there's like 3 Democrats running. The only people that really vote in those ones are like the people that are really Democratic. So it's like you end up getting like the person running for president is like super Democratic, and then the Republican is like really Republican because of that reason, because of the primaries. Because usually the people voting in the primaries are not the general public. It's like maybe a quarter of the population probably.
Right.
So that kind of
So,
ends up
yeah.
happening.
Okay. So
But yes, ideally in the ideal world, that's should how it go. That's should how it should be. But
right, but in a real world, like Trump's way is right for winning. So
yeah, he was just able to find a way to kind of inspire people that followed him. I think, and that kind of just like once you were kind of hooked, you kind of latched onto it. And I think he was able to really kind of like just draw numbers through that method.
right.
And it worked pretty well. So
Okay, so before you leave, please leave comments and likes and subscribe, please. And that will be helpful for us to make videos continuously.
yes.
So,
All right.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. All right. Cool. Oh, nice.